So we're joined now with the CEO and President of Hong Kong Rugby Union, Robbie McRobbie. Robbie, how are you doing?
Good, Amish. Yeah, no, nice to chat again. Yeah, we're 4 weeks out now from our Cathay HSBC Hong Kong Sevens, so there's a certain tension growing in the office as we move towards the big weekend. But yeah, we're all very excited and you know ready to go.
How's the preparations going?
As always, we have good days and not so good days. There's it doesn't matter how much preparation that you do. There are always the unforeseen things that come out that you have to deal with. There's always firefighting, but yeah, touch wood. Up to this point, I would say overall we're having a lot more good days than bad days, and we're tracking pretty well. So we've sold 34,000 tickets. The overseas sales are really good, which was very important for us. Actually, what we're seeing, and we have with our e-ticketing system and the ticketing app, that gives us really strong data and insight into exactly who is buying the tickets and where they are. So we can see that a lot of the local Hong Kongers who bought tickets last April haven't purchased yet. So our hope is, Hong Kong traditionally, a lot of us tend to buy tickets for things quite late. So we're hoping that that's the case for the Sevens. But it's good to see a lot of the overseas fans buying early, and so that kind of gives us a lot of confidence.
So it's a case of being fashionably late with the locals.
Indeed, yes. I don't know whether that's it could be a combination of because they know that there's ticket availability, so they're not rushing. Also, I guess there are people who might wait and see what the weather's like at the time, and I guess part of it is down to how good our marketing is. If they are sitting on the fence, then we've got 4 weeks left to convince them that this is going to be the biggest party of the year, and they don't want to miss out.
So for someone like myself that's never been to the Hong Kong Sevens, what am I to expect? What does a typical Hong Kong Sevens day look like for someone that's never been, like myself?
Okay, well, over the 3 days, the first thing is you're going to have the opportunity to watch over 70 games of world-class rugby. The 12 best men's and women's teams in the world on the HSBC SVNS, the World Series. Plus, we have got our own 3-team men's and women's competition for Hong Kong China men playing with Japan men and China men, and the Hong Kong China women playing with China women and the Thai women. So these are 6 of the best Asian teams who are in their own little competition. They're actually playing for the Melrose Claymores. So Melrose Sevens, who we have a good relationship with, obviously Melrose being the historical home of the game of rugby sevens, they very kindly donated trophies to us, and we thought what could be more Scottish, more Braveheart and William Wallace-like than getting a couple of massive claymores. So the actual swords will be the trophies for the winners of those 2 Fast 3 competitions. So you'll get to see a lot of great rugby. You'll also get to see, if you're there early in the morning, which not all of our fans do manage to get there for doors opening at 7 o'clock. But if you do, you'll also have an opportunity to see some of our best youth in action in Hong Kong. So we have traditionally mini rugby and youth rugby games on all 3 mornings, and then actually the minis make a return on Saturday early afternoon, where they do their traditional march past. So we get all the mini clubs in Hong Kong. There's 20 mini clubs, and they all march around the pitch. So that's the rugby. As the saying goes, if you get bored, you can turn around and watch the rugby, because there's lots of other stuff going on. So for music's always a really integral and important part of what we do. This year we have got, on the Friday of the opening ceremony, we have got a local all-girl counter-pop band called Lolly Talk. After them we have got another local superstar, so Celine Tam. Celine was best known when as a 9-year-old, so 7 years ago, she reached the semi-finals of America's Got Talent, singing Celine Dion song. So that's actually who she's named after. So Celine is now 16-year-old, but she still has an amazing voice. And so we're very lucky she has agreed to come and perform for us at our opening ceremony. And then the final bit of the opening ceremony, we've got James Haskell, former England rugby legend, will be spinning the discs on the decks. So that's Friday. And along with that, we've got traditional eye dotting ceremony, flying dragons and all that. In fact, two of our special guests who will be dotting the eyes of the lions and the dragons to symbolically bring them to life. If anybody can bring dragons to life, it should be these two, because we have got James and Oliver Phelps, the Weasley twins from the Harry Potter films. So they're here as two of our Sevens ambassadors this year. So Saturday, our main headlining musical act are the Wailers. So Bob Marley's legendary band. I hasten to add that we don't actually have any of the original Wailers, but we do have Aston Barrett, who is the son of family man, his father, who was one of the founding members, and actually Aston plays, there's a new Bob Marley movie just come out called One Love. Aston plays his dad in the film. So it's the Wailers kind of Mark II, but we're really excited and looking forward to it. You know, I mean, they play all the Bob Marley hits, so that should be a big performance on Saturday. And then Sunday, our music act is again something a bit special. We've been pursuing him for a number of years, and we managed to get him to agree to come and play for us, sing for us. Arnold Pineda, who is the lead singer of Journey, so Don't Stop Believing, Any Way You Want It. But Arnold's backstory is just amazing. Arnold is a Filipino who spent 10 years singing in clubs and pubs around Hong Kong. So he could be seen singing in the bars in Lang Kwai Fong. I remember watching him as the lead singer of the Strolling Bones, who were the house band of Igor's, a haunted house themed restaurant here in Hong Kong in the early 90s. So Arnold went from basically being, you know, the singer in cover bands in Hong Kong. When Journey lost their lead singer, they were looking for a replacement, and they did auditions. They were looking all around the world, and somebody in the band found a YouTube clip of Arnold singing Don't Stop Believing in a pub in Hong Kong, and they managed eventually, it wasn't easy, but they tracked him down. By that stage he was back in the Philippines, invited him out to the US to do an audition, and he became the lead singer of one of the biggest stadium bands in the world. So Arnold will be here performing, rocking the South Stand on Sunday, so we're very excited about that.
It's quite poetic how a local Filipino Hong Kong lad like Arnold has gone on such a journey, and now he's back for the final Sevens tournament at the Hong Kong Stadium. Yeah,
it's brilliant, and actually I had the chance to chat to Arnell. Came in to sign his contract a few months ago, and he's the nicest guy in the world. And I mean, I said, oh, have you been to the Sevens before? And he said, no. He said, 10 years I was in Hong Kong. That weekend is, as you can imagine, one of the busiest weekends of the year for the bars and restaurants in Lang Kwai Fong and Wan Chai. So he said, I was always working. So I've never been to the Hong Kong Sevens. So he said, I'm not only really excited to be actually performing, but also to, I'd heard so much about it when I was living here and never had the chance to experience it. So it is, as you say, it's nice that we've got a very kind of Hong Kong local flavour to that with Arnell returning to what he very much regards as his second home after the Philippines.
What do you think's going to make this Sevens this year the best one yet?
It's always the fans. I mean, it's the 40,000 who fill the terraces on you know, the Friday and the Saturday and the Sunday, and they create the magic. You know, that's and every year. I mean, that it's amazing. Somebody was saying the other day, you know, a group of his friends who every year before, so Saturday in particular, which is the big fancy dress day, but they book like a hotel room near to the stadium, and they hire professional makeup artists. So whatever they're going at, so one year they went as Kiss, for example. So they've got the whole proper costume, and then sort of immediately before they head to the stadium, they get a makeup artist to come and like professionally do all the makeup, and then off they go at the stadium. You know, that's the amount of passion and love that people have for the event. It's just amazing. But yeah, so I'm kind of excited to see what the crowd come up with this year. I'm sure they're equally interested to see what we're going to do. But yeah.
Do you have a competition for best costume of the day?
Yeah, we do. We've done different things over the years. I think this year Cathay are doing something around best costumes. I mean, it's sort of, obviously it's extremely good natured and humorous, but people do take it quite seriously, and you know, they spend quite a lot of money on putting together the ensembles, and particularly the ones that are coming as groups. Yeah, you get the weirdest things, you know, like a group of popes and nurses, and we had one year when I'll forget his name now, but the North Korean leader Kim. So we had a load of them. In fact, one of them came and he had like an entourage. It was the most amazing thing. I don't know how much preparation that had gone into it, but yeah, incredible.
Will you be sporting any exciting outfits this time around?
I've never really done much in the way of fancy dress myself, to be honest. No, I'm either in kind of working gear, or depending on what the functions are, you know, occasionally I have to get the old blazer out, and so no, I think I'll wait until I've actually finished my role with Hong Kong China Rugby before I perhaps venture back into the South Stand in a bit of fancy dress.
So that kind of leads us on nicely. You mentioned there that it's going to be your last tournament as the CEO of Hong Kong Rugby Union. What sort of brought about your decision to step down?
Well, it wasn't an easy decision, because I've been so lucky to have 20 amazing years with Hong Kong China Rugby. I mean, it's been a great journey, and I've loved pretty much, with the exception of the pandemic years, I have to say, I've pretty much, you know, loved every minute of it, and I've had a chance to work with amazing people and a fantastic, vibrant rugby community. But I felt, you know, 20 years is a long time, and I've done almost 8 as a CEO, and we've come through what was a very challenging period with the pandemic, and I think now we've turned the corner. We're back in a position of some stability, both financially and organisationally, and I felt that it was just the right time for me and the organisation for a change. You know, I'm 52 now. I've hopefully got a few more years of useful work left in me, but I thought, if I'm going to go and have one last adventure doing something else, then now's about the right time to go. And as I say, I think in terms of where we are with Hong Kong China Rugby, for me, we're at that kind of watershed moment where now perhaps a fresh perspective, a fresh pair of eyes, fresh burst of enthusiasm might be just what the organisation needs as we embark on what, you know, I'm sure is going to be a really exciting next 2, 5, 10 years.
Did the moving of the stadium, did that sort of motivate any of your decisions to sort of step down?
Not really, because I actually live next door to the new stadium, so it would have made things a lot easier for me. No, I suppose only in as much as I felt it was kind of maybe, I suppose, a little bit poetic in as much as there was a bit of a milestone for the event and myself kind of coming together. But no, I mean, honestly speaking, if it hadn't, you know, if we weren't heading across to Kai Tak, I would still have made the same decision. I think it's just the right time for me and the right time for Hong Kong China Rugby to, you know, I say go our separate ways. I mean, I'll for sure remain a very passionate and engaged member of the rugby community, both as a fan and, you know, going forward, I hope that I can give back a bit and get involved in a local rugby club. I guess now that I'm coming towards the end of my tenure, I can say that, you know, I've been very involved with Hong Kong Scottish Rugby Club from its inception. But obviously, as CEO, I've hopefully maintained a neutrality, and you know, I've tried to do the best I could for all the rugby clubs. But now that I can perhaps reveal my colours a little bit more, I'm certainly keen to see how going forward I can get involved a bit more with Hong Kong Scottish. So yeah, I'm looking forward to continuing my love affair with Hong Kong Rugby, but just in a slightly different way.
What's sort of the future for you? Are you going to stick around rugby? Are you going to go into a new type of job, or?
Well, I guess the first thing is that I'm definitely staying in Hong Kong. You know, I've lived here for over 30 years, and it's very much my home now. As much as, you know, I'm still a proud Scot, I'm also equally a proud Hong Konger, and this is, well, my wife would never let me leave anyway. So, in terms of my future career, I don't have anything confirmed or signed at the moment, but I'm very hopeful and keen to stay in the sports and event industry. I want to try and, you know, continue to contribute to Hong Kong's efforts to be an events capital in Asia, and I hope that, you know, some of the experience, some of the learnings that I've got from my involvement with Hong Kong Sevens, you know, maybe I can help with other events across different sports and even beyond sport, and hopefully we can bring more, you know, exciting you know, events to Hong Kong. And I think that with the new Kai Tak Sports Park, that really provides such a wonderful opportunity, a great facility, and you know, so yeah, that's my hope, that I can continue to contribute and work in that sports and event space.
How has the Sevens developed over the last 20 years or so, or since you've been in Hong Kong and arrived here? How has it sort of changed over the years, and how did it look when you first arrived?
So, I mean, funnily enough, actually, I was digging out. I do have a photograph. In fact, I've got, completely coincidentally. So, this is a photograph of my first Sevens. So 1993, that was me in the South Stand. Actually, you can see I'm not even in fancy dress, but I was a recruit police inspector at the time. So, yeah, we certainly had a few beers, but I guess we couldn't get too wild. So in 1993, the stadium was, so this year is the 30th anniversary in the stadium. So if you count back, it seems a little bit strange, because if I was there in 1993, it should in fact be 31 years. But 1993, the stadium wasn't actually completely finished. So one of the weird things about it was, first of all, the seats weren't in properly. So a lot of the stands were actually just like concrete benches. So they gave us cushions to sit on. And what I learnt that year, and what has become a theme ever since, is that if there's one thing that particularly the South Stand crowd enjoy doing at the Sevens, it's throwing things. And cushions in particular, which they're very similar aerodynamically to Frisbees, they loved. But these cushions went everywhere, and they were never seen again at the Sevens, I have to say. So my abiding memory is flying cushions, concrete benches. I don't honestly remember much about the rugby. I remember a lot about the banter. So we were sat in the South Stand, and there was just, again, great crack, great atmosphere, lots of humour, lots of good fun, and of course the entire city was absolutely buzzing. So that's my personal first memory, '93. Now, a couple of milestones then, sort of after that, which I had no involvement with apart from as a spectator, was 1997, which was very, very important for Hong Kong Sevens in two regards. One was obviously it was at the time of the return of Hong Kong to China. So at that moment, there was a really kind of, I don't know, there was a bit of an odd air in Hong Kong. It was kind of end of an era type thing. The Sevens was, again, sort of April time, and July the 1st, June the 30th was the date of the handover. So there were a lot of people who were maybe, kind of thinking that they were coming back to Hong Kong for the last time, or were going to be leaving Hong Kong. And it was also, 97 was the World Cup, the Sevens World Cup. So the first Sevens World Cup had taken place in Scotland in 1993, and then 97, the second edition, came to Hong Kong. So it was an amazing party, a combination of a celebration of us hosting the World Cup, but also, as I say, 97 just seemed, in many regards, it was just like the first half of 97 anyway. It was just like one long party anyway. So 97 was a big tournament. Then 99, the International Rugby Board, as they were then, World Rugby now, they started, or they brought together the World of Sevens into the World Seven Series, and we were one of the founding members of the World Seven Series. So 99 again was a bit of a watershed, a milestone in the development of the game. I then joined the union in 2003. 2005 was another big moment for us because we hosted the Sevens World Cup for the second time. So we're currently the only country that's hosted the Sevens World Cup twice. And 2005 really, we sold out pretty quickly, and we then went on a kind of a long extended period of being sold out every year, the tournament just building and building and building in momentum and interest and, bucket list and all that kind of stuff. So that really went right through up until 2019 and the pandemic. And for us, Hong Kong China Rugby, that extended period of commercial financial success then brought us the resources that enabled us to really double down on all the investment we were putting into the community. So a lot of the programs, the facilities that we were able to invest in, building sports grounds, working with universities and schools to upgrade sports grounds, all of that was built on the success of the Sevens. So 2005 was really, I suppose, the moment when the financial tap was really turned on, and as I say, we had this then incredible 14 years of continuous commercial and financial success, which was very much, as I say, helped us to grow the grassroots of the game here.
What year would you say was the peak?
2006 17, 18 were probably I would say if you look at it from a purely commercial perspective. Although, having said that, we were investing a lot of money in those years, and we were trying different things. So we did a lot of satellite events. So we did sevens in Central. So we had like activities and live music, and we were showing the games live streamed all weekend and that down in sort of that satellite area. Then we did something similar in Central Waterfront, and we had Gwen Stefani concert. We did UB40 concert in another concert hall and that. So we were seeing to what extent we could grow the footprint of the event beyond the actual walls of the stadium. And you know, some of it was successful and some of it wasn't. I mean, I think one thing that we learned was we know our core business of running a rugby event very well. We're not quite so good at organising a Gwen Stefani concert. But you know, it was exciting, and I'm very proud of all of the, you know, the team who at that time had the confidence and creativity to try these new initiatives and different ideas, and a lot of them have been adopted, you know, by other sports events and you know, in other World Series sevens events. So they weren't daft ideas. They were just, I guess for us, it was all part of the whole learning curve. But certainly, yeah, I would say that 2017-18 was probably the period of greatest interest and greatest success.
And then since COVID, has the sevens got back to that level?
Not as yet. So we've had two events post-COVID. The first one, November 2022, for me will always be probably the most special event, because we were the first major, say sports event. We were the first major event to be held in Hong Kong, and at that time there were still COVID restrictions. So it was really kind of, I mean, up until a week before the event, we weren't even sure whether spectators in the stadium would be able to have food. The players were being, basically, they were being COVID swabbed twice a day. You know, there were an awful lot of challenges, and actually, you know, and up until, so in the end we sold about 27,000 tickets, something like that, which was good. But there was a lot of skepticism as to whether or not we would be able to run a successful event, because people still had to wear masks. You know, so people knew it was going to be a very odd atmosphere, and it was a very different atmosphere. But as it turned out, it was an incredible atmosphere, because there was almost like just this huge collective sigh of relief, because people saw the fact that the sevens was back as light at the end of the tunnel. So we'd been through, by that stage, 2021, 20, I mean, almost 3 years of not total lockdown, but the ebb and flow of restrictions that had so disrupted people's lives. And the sevens appeared to be this kind of beacon of normality. And so although we had very, very few overseas spectators, the locals who turned out, it was almost like a reunion, because a lot of them, you know, through restrictions, that had maybe not seen friends that they'd been used to kind of bumping into regularly. It was just amazing. There was just like this whole, I don't know, just an atmosphere of coming together and celebration, and you know, just positivity. It was brilliant. So not the same level of commercial success as previous sevens had been, but yeah, for us as an organisation, a massive sigh of relief, and I think more broadly for the city, also a really important milestone. Then we did another one in April 23. Now, I think in retrospect, so November was obviously, there was the extra one. It was like the makeup one, if you like. So we were the first sevens event of the 22-23 season, but we also had our traditional place. So we ended up being, I think, having the first and the seventh event, something like that. Now, we thought, and you would have thought we would have known better than this, but slightly naively, we thought, oh, well, 2 events in 6 months. That's all right, because it'll just be like cut and paste. So what we do in November, we'll just replicate in April. And in fact, it's never as simple as that. So it was really very intensive for all of the staff. By the time you have finished the sevens event, you're pretty much burnt out. And then you've got, you know, sort of bit of downtime, and then you're sort of assessing, you're writing reports about, you know, how things have gone, what are the learnings. But we were like straight back into it, because the preparation, the booking of the flights, the booking of the hotels, everything else for the next tournament was kind of almost literally happening the week after we'd finished the November event. So it again was challenging, but it was lovely in April to see a much more of a normal type Hong Kong Sevens event. So we did get not to the same levels, but we had overseas fans coming back. For the teams, obviously, it was much more of a normal Hong Kong Sevens for them. They didn't have things stuck up their noses twice a day. So that was good. That to me was like, you know, back to a position of some stability, which then brings us to this year. And, you know, as luck would have it, the 30th anniversary, it seems like a really nice sort of way to encourage and welcome back more of our traditional overseas fans. And really kind of, I suppose, celebrate the fact that as an organisation, as a community, we have come through what has been very, very difficult period, and we're now kind of back ready to face the future with some high degree of confidence and excitement.
Back on track, all steam ahead.
Yeah.
On the train.
Yeah, I would say that's certainly the what we're feeling at the moment. Yeah, I think we feel we're in a good place. Lots of exciting opportunities for us, you know, on and off the pitch, I think, over the next few years. And you know, obviously the move to Kai Tak looming as well. It's everybody's very excited.
So in light of your final year as CEO, I'm now going to play a little game, which is a trip down memory lane with your greatest hits in the sevens and your best memories. So the first one is your happiest memory or fondest memory or story from any of the sevens.
Fondest memory. I think, okay, 40th anniversary was very, very special. We did a big kind of lead up to the tournament where we did a combination of public voting and also kind of a panel of experts to choose the 7 greatest exponents of the art of rugby sevens who had ever graced the pitch at well, not just Soak and Po, you know, spanning the 76 up to, that was what, 2015, I think it was. And so, you know, and then bringing them together in Hong Kong. So all 7 of them, we flew into Hong Kong and they were with us for the tournament, and we had a big gala dinner. So seeing on stage at the dinner and then on the pitch at the sevens, the likes of Christian Cullen, see whether I can name them all now, Christian Cullen, Ben Gollings, David Campisi, of course Wasali Sarevi, Johnny Jiang from China, Eric Rush and Jonah Lomu was pretty magical. So that would definitely be right up there as, yeah, one of the most magical, happiest sevens.
Your funniest sevens story?
I've got a few.
Let's do top 3.
Okay. They're all a bit long though, but okay. One was definitely Kung Fu Rugby. So myself and my good friend Sam Pinder, who's now actually runs the World 7 Series for World Rugby. So Sam was a tournament director at the time, and the two of us decided that I'm a big fan of there's a Stephen Chow, a local Hong Kong movie actor and comedian who makes brilliant movies, and one of the movies he made was called Shanghai Soccer. So it's a story about a group of odd kind of Shanghai monks who have got incredible kung fu powers, and they form a football team. And you can imagine it's all about how they play football using these powers. So if you ever get a chance to watch it, it's brilliant, really funny. So we decided we were going to create Kung Fu Rugby, and we were going to rig the stadium and do a Kung Fu Rugby show. This is still, if you can watch this on YouTube, if you put in Hong Kong Sevens Kung Fu Rugby, you can see how it ended up. Anyway, so we engaged with a former Hong Kong female movie Kung Fu actress. So she was like the female equivalent of Jackie Chan back in the day. She now runs a martial arts movie stuntwoman school in China. Honestly true. So Sam and I went up to this stuntman school, and we tried to teach them how to play rugby. And we did rig the stadium, so we had them flying on harnesses. We had like a ball with like a rocket, like a firework rocket. So from the halfway line, a kick, and again the ball was on the wire and all this sort of stuff. There was all sorts of stuff. Anyway, the concept actually worked okay up to a point, except what we hadn't factored in was that the Kung Fu stuntman had never ever played rugby before or seen a rugby ball. So the bit that they couldn't really get their heads around was catching and passing the ball. Flying around on a harness wasn't that difficult for them. So the first thing that we tried was we got a ball attached to a bungee line, and the bungee line was wrapped around them all. So the idea was that they would ping the ball and it would shoot. The ball would go at 100 miles an hour. It would look really impressive. But the problem was they couldn't catch it. So when we were doing rehearsals in the lead up to the event, they would stretch out the bungee cord, and the first one would let it go, and then it would knock out the second bloke because the ball would come flying at him. Down he'd go, and this happened repeatedly. We thought we were going to run out of stuntmen because they were all kind of sat on the sideline concussed because of the. So we got rid of the bungee line balls, but this basic inability to play rugby was a bit of a challenge, and we were honestly, this is true. As the tournament approached, we became really concerned that this was going to be an absolute disaster and a total embarrassment. So we were out. We did it on the Saturday, if I remember correctly. The Friday night, so the tournament finished at 9 o'clock at night or whatever. We were out there all night with the stuntmen rehearsing. We were there till about 5 in the morning, trying to get it at least close to being right. And on the day, we just didn't know what to expect. We were really, really worried. As it turned out, as I say, you can go on YouTube, you can have a look at it. I think it's still our most watched clip, actually. And it worked out pretty well. And the finale, bless him, David Campese, one of the greatest ever Sevens legends. He's a really good guy, and he's always been really supportive to us. So the finale consists of David Campese picking up the ball and running off, kind of Benny Hill style, pursued by all the other players in that, which was great. It actually went down. It went down pretty well, but I had a few sleepless nights with that. So that was Kung Fu Rugby. The other one, I'll just tell you one. Again, this is absolutely true. I can't remember what year this was, but it's the morning and I'm walking from the office round to the stadium, and a taxi draws up and a taxi opens, and a chap gets out with his leg in plaster, and he's kind of obviously struggling a bit. And I went across and said, "Can I help you?" And he said, "Oh yeah, thanks very much, mate. My wheelchair's in the boot. If you can just help me." So I get his wheelchair out and his wheelchair. So we got chatting, and I said, what happened? And he said, "Oh, it's a rugby injury. I've broken my leg." But he said, I'd already booked my tickets for Hong Kong, and I was determined to come, and from the UK. And I said, "Oh, it's great to see you." And I said, "I'll give you a hand coming in." He said, "Oh, that'd be great. That'd be great." And I said, you're gonna? Do you want to go to like the wheelchair viewing base? He said, "Oh, mate, I've come all the way around the world. I want to go to the South Stand." So I said, "Okay, all right, I'll help you get in the South Stand." So we go around into the South Stand, and it's early, and so there's no queue or anything. We get him in, and I said, "Right, we'll get you up and we'll get you seated and settled." And I said, "I'll just put your wheelchair just round the corner here, and at the end of the day, I'll come back and I'll get you back in the wheelchair, and I'll help you get a taxi." "Oh, thanks, mate. Thanks." Anyway, it's a long day, and I kind of forgotten about the chap in the South Stand. And it gets to the end of the day, and the play has finished, and the crowds have gone, and I'm sat in the Union box, having my first beer of the day, and chatting to a mate, and my mate looks across and he says, "There's someone still in the South Stand." And I looked across and I suddenly thought, "Oh no," I said, "I know who that is." And so I rushed around the South Stand, and sure enough, it's my mate in the wheelchair. Except obviously he's not in the wheelchair; he's still sat in his seat. And I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And he said, "It's all right. It's all right. I've had a great day. But if you can just give me a hand now, then I said, "No problem." So I go around the corner. His wheelchair's gone. So I should have known you can't leave those sorts of things lying around the South Stand. So the wheelchair's been taken. So I said to him, "Look, someone's nicked your wheelchair, but don't worry, don't panic. I'll go and get you one." So I went and borrowed one from the stadium. They've obviously, they've got wheelchairs that they have available for players and stuff like that. So I borrowed a wheelchair, got him in the wheelchair, got him out, and I said, "Look, I promise you, I'll make this up to you. I'll make sure I get you another wheelchair." So put him in a taxi, off he goes to his hotel. So our medical manager, Lucy, I go and see Lucy and say, "Lucy, I've lost this guy's wheelchair. I've got to get another wheelchair by tomorrow morning." And this is like, I suppose, must be Friday going into Saturday or something like that. And Lucy, bless her, miracle worker, somehow manages to come up with a new wheelchair by the time this guy arrives the next morning. So he gets out his taxi. I'm there with his brand new, state-of-the-art, better wheelchair than the one that I lost. He's delighted. "Oh, thanks mate. So get him in the wheelchair, and he goes back to his seat and enjoys the rest of the weekend. The kicker to the story, though, is at the end of the day on Sunday, because obviously the story about me losing this guy's wheelchair spread throughout all the staff and the volunteers and the team. Everybody, was making fun of me during the course of the weekend. It got to the Sunday, and at the end of the day on Sunday, again, the crowds had gone, and one of my colleagues came up to me and he said, "We found your wheelchair." And I said, "Oh, no." He said, "Yeah, it was at the bottom of the South Stand. So somebody must have in the South Stand must have taken the wheelchair." And I said, "Oh, okay." So I went across and looked at it, and sure enough, at the bottom of the South Stand, amongst all the kind of rubbish and that, was his wheelchair. But the amazing thing was, it wasn't the wheelchair that I'd lost on the Friday. It was a different wheelchair. So somehow, over the course of the weekend, not one but two wheelchairs had somehow disappeared into the south stand. And I always thought that was, you know, one wheelchair going missing was strange enough, but two. But that is the nature of the south stand. It's a very unusual place. It's like
a black hole.
It is like a black hole. Yeah.
Things just orbit towards.
Exactly. Yeah.
What's your most outrageous sevens story?
For me personally, I would say it was when I, during, so to set the scene, David Hasselhoff, dressed in his Baywatch swimming trunks and costume, is in front of the south stand, serenading the south stand, singing the theme from Baywatch, with an array of extras dressed up as lifeguards, and somebody from the south stand, in fact it was a bloke, but dressed as Pamela Anderson, so in the red bathing suit with a wig and that, jumped onto the pitch as a pitch invader and ran towards David Hasselhoff, at which point I took off and rugby tackled him in the middle of the pitch, just behind David Hasselhoff. And that was a bit surreal, I have to say. And again, I've still got people from time to time still kind of show me the footage of it. First of all, it was obviously slightly surreal tackling a bloke dressed as Pamela Anderson behind David Hasselhoff. That is not something that happens every day. But to a lot of people, the more amazing thing was the fact that I'd actually completed a successful rugby tackle, because in my day, I wasn't really renowned as a great tackler. But it was one of the best tackles I've ever done. So I would say that's probably the most outrageous thing that I personally was involved with.
I like it. I think I saw online that video.
It surfaced on recently. Yeah.
So I'm going to turn now to the current sevens circuit with Antoine Dupont currently playing up, and he's getting a lot of media attention. What's your thoughts on the current sevens circuit and how that's looking this year?
Yeah, so what we've seen since sevens was admitted into the Olympics before Rio, what we tend to find in the Olympic series year, that we get some of the 15s athletes who decide they want to have a crack at trying to make their country's teams for the Olympics. No, I actually think it's brilliant. I fully respect the fact that the crossover between 15s and 7s is not as easy as it once was. That 7s athletes are quite different. But having said that, to see the likes of, in the past we've had, you know, the Brian Habanas of this world, now Dupont, Michael Hooper, you know, having a crack at 7s, I think is just brilliant. And I think it definitely gets more eyeballs on the sport. I think when you look at, so the Vancouver and the LA legs when Dupont played, and you contrast the amount of media coverage that got, particularly in countries like the UK, who are big traditional, you know, rugby-loving nations, but often the Sevens series tournaments don't get a lot of column inches, quite honestly, now. All of a sudden, Sevens was front and centre again. So that can only be good for the Seven series and for the sport in general. Now, again, I think it's good for the Olympics as well, because I think Sevens has demonstrated its value to the Olympics. But I think we have to remember that there are lots and lots of sports that want to be part of the Olympic family, and to continue to have your slot in that schedule, you know, it is subject to periodic review. So it's important for Sevens that they continue to show the popularity and the fact that it's an important event within within the Olympics. So again, I think having arguably the greatest rugby player in the world gracing the pitches at the Olympic Sevens, obviously in his home country, would be brilliant. And I think again, if the likes of Michael Hooper also, managed to get into the Australian team, happy days. And I think it can only be good.
Rugby has changed a lot of lives, and rugby in Hong Kong. A friend of mine once told me that in Asia, all roads lead to Hong Kong, and all roads lead out of Hong Kong when it comes to the rugby scene. So obviously Hong Kong's had a big impact on the rugby community within this diverse region of Asia. How has rugby changed your life?
I guess have become a big believer and a big exponent of sport for change, sport for development. The belief that, in the words of Nelson Mandela, sport has the power to change the world. I've seen so many examples of that. You're right, not just in Hong Kong, but across the Asian region. That, yeah, for me that has been, I think, part of my job and my role that has been definitely personally most rewarding, having the opportunity to be involved in that side of things. And yeah, I mean, some of the stories are just incredible. As you say, I mean, I would definitely pay tribute to not just Hong Kong China Rugby, but the broader Hong Kong rugby community for their generosity in the way in which they have reached out and supported rugby in other countries in Asia. I mean, you can see, for example, Kowloon Rugby Club, who have always had such a close relationship with Lao and been very supportive. And over the years, I think if you go around Asia, in a lot of countries, you'll find kids wearing Hong Kong Football Club shirts and USRC Tiger shirts and Hong Kong China Rugby shirts. So that it's a great family within Asian rugby, and yeah, I mean, I think it's a lovely thing to say that kind of all roads lead to and from Hong Kong, but I would certainly say that there's been some really generous individuals and organisations within the Hong Kong rugby community who have done a lot for rugby in Asia and beyond. I mean, again, when you look at, for example, some of the work that David Hughes has done with Rwandan rugby, that's another incredible initiative led by, a Hong Konger.
As you mentioned, rugby's a team sport, so obviously everyone coming together. That's why we love the game. Everyone comes together as a community, and having done my travels for the last 4 months from China to Hong Kong and then around Southeast Asia, I've met a lot of the rugby community that is in Asia, and a lot of the people that I've spoken to have only had good things to say about you. So it is very grateful from my personal side that I've been able to meet you whilst you're still running the show and in your job, and it's just been great to hear all the great stories and contributions you've given to the sport over the years. If there was one thing that you'd like to be remembered for, what would it be?
That's a good question. And maybe before I answer, I mean, I'd also like to, I guess, both pay tribute to yourself, but also thank you for what you've done in highlighting some of the great stories that are out there in Asian rugby. I think there is so much that you've seen that is very special, and it deserves to be, the stories deserve to be told to a wider audience and a global audience. So thank you for what you have been doing for raising the profile of Asia rugby. I guess I'd like to be remembered as yeah, good rugby, good rugby person with a good heart who yeah, who's a good guy to have a beer with, and yeah, that's, I think that to me that's what sport's always been about. You know, I mean, the friendship and the fun has been central for me. That's why, you know, that's why I got involved with the sport to start with, and I've been incredibly fortunate to be able to actually work in rugby, and but fun and friendship has always been, yeah, front and centre, and will always be for me the bedrock on which, you know, my love of the game is built.
Well, I think that's a good place to end up there. Thank you very much, Robbie.
Great.
And don't forget to buy your tickets for Hong Kong, guys.